Today we're going to focus on what makes a Christian home. And as quite a few of you know, I had an opportunity to go to Ethiopia a couple weeks ago, and I saw something that really impacted me relative to a Christian home, and really had me pondering and thinking about what it means to be a Christian home. Now, I went over to Ethiopia. I was asked to give a speech on leadership. They actually said, we want you to talk about capacity building related to leadership, and I had to look up what capacity building meant because I didn't know that term, but it's a term that's used in the third world country. It basically means identifying obstacles that you need to overcome in order to accomplish some task or some goal that you want to see succeed. And so I prepared this speech. It was an hour long. I was telling Rob about this before service, and just days before I was ready to hop on the plane and fly over, they said, we would like a manuscript of your speech so that people could follow along. I don't do manuscripts, and so I'm suddenly trying to craft this manuscript to send over to Ethiopia so people can follow along. I don't like manuscripts, and so I sent this thing over. It was half cocked, half baked, wasn't completely done. Printed a hard copy for myself, and as I'm flying over there, I'm editing everything, writing in the margins, scribbling stuff out, and then, of course, the night before, I can't sleep because there's 8 hours difference, and so I'm changing all kinds of stuff. Comes to the day that I'm giving the speech, which is actually the day after I arrived. Jet lag was in full tilt, and I'm ready to present at 11 o'clock, but there's other stuff going on, other stuff at 11:15, other stuff continuing on all the way to 11:35. I got an hour speech, manuscript. I said to the coordinator, how long do you want me to talk? And he said, we want to eat at noon. I'm like, I flew all the way over to Ethiopia to give this speech, and now I got this hour-long speech, and it's only going to be 25 minutes. It's a manuscript. I don't like manuscripts, and so I started talking, and I'm jumping all over the place in this speech, and as I'm talking, I can hear people flipping pages trying to find where this crazy guy from the United States is at, and I'm like, this is just nuts, just crazy. I'm getting to my point about Christian homes. Don't think I haven't forgot. What the Lord revealed to me very quickly is He didn't send me over there to teach the Ethiopians about leadership. What He sent me over was for other things. I talked about servant leadership. I talked about the mentoring that we have going on with John Lewis. I talked about how important it is to be servant leaders. And unbeknownst to me, Bishop Brodowski from the NALC, which is the other group that left the ELCA and have this big hierarchy and structure. The day before, he spent 5 pages worth of material, an hour-long presentation, convincing the Mankani Jesus that they need to abandon presidents and adopt bishops. My talk, I said, I don't care what title you give anybody, if they're not God-fearing individuals, if they're not Scripture-based, if they don't understand that the authority comes from God, you're going to have a mess, no matter what title you give them. And I'm sure Bishop Brodowski was probably steaming in the front row, but he had a big smile on his face, and we hugged afterwards, so it was good. I'd still say the same thing. After the conference was over, the Lord said, the reason I sent you over here is to learn about this church, to network with these people, to discover this seminary that we've got going on over there and how the Institute of Lutheran Theology can network with that seminary. I want you to discover how LCMC can benefit with the relationship of Mankani Jesus and learn from these Lutherans that are the fastest growing Lutheran denomination in the world while we're in decline here in the United States. And you can teach them things as well. There is a mutual understanding. It was powerful. My brain is still trying to digest everything. And I also had a chance to reacquaint with 2 good friends, Atefa Gobina and his wife, Almaz Halimariam. 25 years ago, they came to the United States because Ethiopia was under communist control. They had 2 teenage sons, and the precedent over there was that Christian teenagers ended up in the front lines of the army. And Atefa wanted to get his sons here to the United States so they'd be safe. And so our congregation, Bluffs Trinity outside Fremont, we basically embraced Almaz and the 3 kids for a couple years. And it was so cool over in Ethiopia 25 years later. Almaz is leading me around by the hand, introducing me to all these pastors and professors and presidents that were there, saying, I want you to meet my pastor. That was so cool that after all that time. And I thought, and Sherry thought, that deal we did 25 years ago, that was an interesting chapter in our life. And the Lord said, no, that was the foundation for what I really want done. And so 25 years later, here we are, networking as an association of congregations with a powerful, powerful church. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about Christian homes. Almaz and Atefa and I went down to a place called Solde, and it's have hot springs and baths and pools, and it's just kind of a recreation place. It's kind of those recreation places in the United States, that were real popular about 50 years ago, and everybody went to them, but they haven't really changed anything over those 50 years. That's kind of the feel of the place. And on the way down, we left Addis Ababa, this town of 3 to 5 million people, and we went out into the country. And out in the country, this is where my mind was just overwhelmed. Out in the country, you'd see these houses that people lived in, made of concrete, but outside the houses, sometimes right next to the houses, there was a grass hut. It was about 8 feet tall, about 6 feet wide, an opening in it, and sometimes there'd be one, sometimes there'd be 2 of these huts. And I said to Atefa, what are those? Is that for the animals? And he said, no, those huts are very interesting. And I said, what are they? He said, most of the people out in the outer country are baptized Christians. They're a part of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. But those huts are still from their tribal practices. They do ancestral worship in those huts. You'll find figurines and idols in those huts. I thought, what? They're baptized Christians, and yet they got these huts where they keep their idols? That's just nuts. That's just crazy. And I'm just stewing about this all the way as we're traveling down the road. And then the Lord just kind of taps me on the shoulder and said, what about your idols? What about the things that you prize over me, Kip Tyler? Your pride? Status? Your possessions? What about all those little huts that you have built? Deuteronomy 4:9. Only take care and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things that your eyes have seen, lest they depart from your heart all the days of your life. Make them known to your children and your children's children, how on that day you stood before the Lord your God at Horeb. Horeb is another name, they think, for Mount Sinai, so it's the same place, just 2 different names. The Lord said to me, gather all the people to me, that I may let them hear my words, so that they may learn to fear me all the days of their life, and that they may teach their children also. So Moses receives the word of the Lord. He's got it in 2 stone tablets. He comes out. He's coming down the mountain. And what does he see? A graven image. A golden calf. Something that the people say, this is more important than our God. What idols do we have? You see, fundamentally, I think that a Christian home, at its very bedrock, is not confused about what God it worships. A Christian home readily identifies those things that tries to get in the way and deals with them. A Christian home focuses upon the one true God, the source of our salvation. So, I got to ask you, and I ask myself, in your home, is it apparent that a relationship with this living God exists? In your home, do children understand this relationship with the one true God? In your home, do adults understand the relationship of this one true God? In your homes, do you see God's unconditional love flow, His grace flow? In your homes, is confession and forgiveness regularly practiced and understood as a powerful way to reconcile relationships? In your homes, is there a moral backbone that takes a stance different than the world? Ephesians 6. Children, obey your parents in the Lord. Do it for the Lord. Obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother. This is the first command with a promise, that it may go well with you and that you may live long in the land. Fathers, I don't know why he just picks on fathers, doesn't pick on mothers, just fathers. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline, not the punishment, the discipline, the right path, the way to follow, and the instruction of the Lord. How many of you have gone through confirmation, you studied Luther's Small Catechism? Got a bunch. Some of you haven't. Those of you that have gone through this, have you ever had the preface read to you? Luther wrote a preface. I don't know if you knew this. And in his preface, he explains why he wrote the Small Catechism. You ready for this? He writes, "The deplorable conditions which I have recently encountered when I was a visitor constrained me to prepare this brief and simple catechism or statement of Christian teaching. Good God, what wretchedness I beheld! The common people, especially those living in the country, have no knowledge whatever of Christian teaching, and unfortunately, many pastors are quite incompetent and unfit for teaching. Although the people are supposed to be a Christian and are baptized and receive Holy Sacrament, they don't know the Lord's Prayer. They don't know the Creed. They don't know the Ten Commandments. They live as if they were pigs and irrational beasts. And now that the gospel has been restored, they have mastered the fine art of abusing liberty." So he wrote the Small Catechism. Now, many Lutherans think that the Small Catechism was written so that the pastor has an arsenal of information that he can use or she can use during confirmation and use it as a backbone. Well, guess what? He didn't write it for that reason. You want to know why he wrote it? This. 10 Commandments. Each heading, he writes this. 10 Commandments are written in the plain form in which the head of the family shall teach them to his household. The Creed in the plain form in which the head of the family shall teach it to his household. The Lord's Prayer in the plain form in which the head of the family shall teach it to his household. Are you seeing a pattern here? The Sacrament of Holy Baptism in the plain form in which the head of the household may teach it to his family. Confession and absolution in the plain form so it can be taught to comfort people. The sacrament of the altar in the plain form in which the head of the family shall teach it to his household. The Small Catechism was written so that the family can be a strong unit and understand exactly the calling of the Lord and understand the teachings of the church. And some people go, well, it's the church's job to do that. Well, guess what the church is? It's all of us together working on this teaching and passing the faith from one generation to the next. A Christian home is to be a place where disciples are made. I think one of the reasons we've been in decline in the United States is because we've been all about making church members, not about making Christian disciples. Now, there's a difference. Don't get upset. But a Christian disciple is one who will follow Jesus to the pits of hell. And the church member is someone who thinks they have rights and privileges because they are a member of a body. And sometimes get their feathers all out of shape when they feel their rights have not been honored. Matthew 28, Jesus is getting ready to go back to heaven. And he's talking to his church, and he says, "Church, I want to tell you what the most important thing is. This is what I want you to do. These are my final words. I'm leaving. This is my charge to you." He said, "I want you to baptize, I want you to teach, and I want you to go everywhere. I mean, don't leave any corner of the earth unturned. Go everywhere, even go to Africa, go to Ethiopia, go to Addis Ababa, go to Omaha, go to all these places and do what? Make disciples, followers of Jesus who will go to the pits of hell." He didn't say, "I want you to make a lot of church members." Makana Yesu's church, they put together a strategic plan. And at this event, they unleashed this strategic plan. Now, just to give you a background of this church was reaching out to many people. It was had missionaries from Sweden and Germany that came down. They're very liturgical. You'll see them in robes and stoles. But they also got a Baptist influence, and so they're got a charismatic strain running through them. It is the wildest thing I have ever experienced in my life. I don't see this in Omaha very often. And when they get really excited, they jump into their African chant, and they go, and it's just, the hair stands up in the back of my neck, and I'm not sure where I am. They're growing by leaps and bounds. And this church was persecuted by the communists during the 90s, the late 80s and 90s. There was 500 people at this event. 3/4 of them, of these leaders, spent time in prison and were tortured because they were Christian. Some of the others that were there as Christian leaders had been communists and had tortured their friends that they sat together with. That's the power of the church. That church is exploding because the boot of oppression was upon them and they were disciples. And when that boot was lifted, they exploded all over the place. And they have a strategic plan. Over the next 5 years, they want to witness to 3 million people. You know how they're going to do it? Every member of Makana Jesus over the first year is called to witness to one person. And then the next year, that person and the person they witness to will witness to 2 other people. And the next year, they'll replicate. The next year, it'll replicate. The next year, it'll replicate. They got enough number to start with that over 5 years, if this plan works, they will reach 3 million people. Wow. And when the General Secretary said to the Assembly, "Is this something we can do?" there was this uproariously, "Yes, we can do this." They were all excited to do this. I did the math. Lutheran Church of the Master, not confirmed membership, not baptized membership, just those of us that gather here for worship on Sunday morning and at the East Campus, about 1,000 of us. Excuse me. If we do this same thing, if we take this same model, within 5 years, we will have witnessed to 32,000 people. Can we do this? Yeah, that's kind of the response I thought I'd get. Just kind of a lot of people going, that's an interesting idea, Pastor. That's Ethiopia, and we're here. I'm Lutheran. But really, what's really at the heart of it is we go, I don't really know how to do that. You know, I just kind of grew up in the church, and the faith was just kind of always there, and to talk to a stranger about my faith, I'm not sure what to say. I feel a little little unprepared to do that. So how do we do this? Luke 8. The man from whom the demons had gone. By the way, Makani Jesus is all about casting out demons. Here in the United States, a lot of people say, they don't exist. I think they exist. The man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with him. But Jesus said, no, I don't want you to stay with me. I want you to go. And where does he send him? Get this. Listen where he sends him. Return to your home. Go back to the folks. Go back to the people that you grew up with. Go back to the people that love you. Go back home and do what? Declare how much God has done for you. And what did the guy do? He went away, and on the way back home, he proclaimed throughout the whole city how much Jesus had done for him. Don't you find that interesting? Jesus said, I want you to not hang around me. I want you to go and I want you to witness everything that the Lord has done. And the first place I want you to go is I want you to go home. I want you to go home and tell the people at home what the Lord has done for you. Could it be that witnessing is that simple? Could it be that sharing about faith is really no more than counting your blessings and telling someone, maybe somebody at home, how much the Lord has blessed you? That's simple. And Jesus says, start in your home. Start in your home. And so now you're thinking, well, my kids are grown, or my kids are too little to understand, or I don't have any kids. You know, we can come up with all kinds of excuses, guys. But we all have family. We all have friends. We all have people we know where we can very simply share with them the blessings that the Lord has given us. From the sun coming up in the morning to what Jesus did on the cross. Can we do this thing? Boy, you Lutherans are really good at nodding your heads. Can we do this thing? Yes. That's a little better. Can we do this thing? Yes. Absolutely. May the Lord bless each one of you as you go out and witness the good news of the things that the Lord has blessed you with. Share it in your home, in your community, in this world. Don't let a single corner be uncovered. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.